Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here at Campaign for America with John McCann. In a few seconds, I will put John on the broadcast, but at the moment, I want to share with you that we have a lot of issues as of 4 hours ago, from what I understand, regarding Afghanistan. And when we get to the specifics of what's going on, how we got there, where we are and where we're headed, let it serve as a warning to the American people that we're in for some rough times. Now, we felt it was very important to bring to you some truth with regard to what's going on in Afghanistan. Joe Biden has not been forthright, either outright lying or there's something wrong with the guy. I've spoken to many former military intelligence officers and law enforcement officers involved in Homeland Security, and we are appalled and shocked over what has occurred, and we are very concerned as to what is going to occur in the event that we don't get a handle on this, and I don't think we will. And I'll qualify those statements in a few minutes. If we have some time after we speak about the Afghanistan situation, Governor Cuomo, his last hour in office, commuted the death sentence of a cop killer. And we're going to talk about that later. And I just received a report earlier, John, that apparently New Jersey inmates were freed because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and they went and got a machete and chopped up a couple of people in New Hampshire. So, folks, the world is being turned inside out and upside down, primarily because, and we've warned people over and over again during the election, that we have a Democrat, Socialist, Communist Party now in power, and they have what is called an America Last agenda as compared to the prior administration, Donald Trump, and going way back to Ronald Reagan, an America First agenda. So, John, right now, as of now, over the past 2 weeks, I did about 50 radio broadcasts. I've been working with the Republican National Committee, and they've been deploying me to a number of radio broadcasts and TV broadcasts. And the questions, John, the questions that I'm getting are very interesting, in particularly the impact that what Joe Biden has done on our national security. So from your point of view, John, what do you think? John, we unfortunately can't hear you. You're back there with us, buddy?
I'm back with you.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
there you go.
On me. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And I remember the phone call I got from my wife that morning when the first news of the first plane hit the tower. She was about to go over the George Washington Bridge. And I told her, don't worry, it could be an accident. And moments later, while she was stuck in traffic, she called again at my office and informed me of the second plane in the second tower. I was a councilman at the time in my town, and I can tell you that there were no plans in place at the time. We just thought when you saw the buildings come down that we probably lost 30, 40,000 people in that neighborhood originally. And I just remember, going to the police station in my town that morning, trying to come up with a plan on what to do for the kids who may have just lost parents. Fortunately, our town fared very well with no loss of life. But what it looks like is that the Biden administration, and I say the Biden administration all of his actors around him, the chief of staff, the vice president, his cabinet, who were witnessing this, and each took an oath to defend the Constitution of this country. I want to editorialize a moment here because I generally don't do that on this podcast. But you said America last. I think it's more maniacal than that. I don't think anything here happens without an accident. Laura Logan, who is a Fox News contributor, she's been all over this, and I concur with some of her views. And that is, what we're seeing is not America last, Steve. We're seeing a systematic destruction of America, deliberate. She claims there's nothing that goes on in national security, whatever that is not an accident. And we see here that the president's taking heat. We see that he just turns his back to the cameras and walks away without answering questions. He has no desire to engage on this topic. So you can only conclude that the president and the people around him know what they're doing. They are doing this deliberately, in Laura Logan's view, an opinion that I'm starting to share, and it concerns me a great deal.
Well,
We've only been into this now essentially for 8 months.
Well, John, let's talk about what you just said. I find that interesting. It is a compelling argument, and it appears to me, to my regret, because I find it hard to believe, but there seems to be some evidence that lends credibility to that opinion. And here's the evidence, folks. I spent 25 years with U.S. military intelligence. We have plans to address every problem across the face of the earth, including enemy forces coming into a particular country. We have evacuation plans. I mean, we're the best on earth when it comes to meeting the enemy head on and evacuating our people from hostile territory. Well, I found it very hard to believe. Number one, now here's where we love to educate people on facts so that you'll filter all the other stuff you're hearing on the air. I found it incredible that we closed down Bagram Air Base. I mean, I just found it absolutely incredible knowing that we still had terrorists in the area. Al-Qaeda was still around. ISIS certainly was around. ISIS-K, and I'll explain to you what that is all about later, and the Taliban. We closed down the only, picture this, folks, the only safe route to evacuate our people in the event of a hostile takeover. Closed down, shut down, gone. That was it. Now we had a situation where the Taliban, and John, here's where I have an issue with with Biden's argument, and maybe our intelligence agencies. We had to know they meaning the Taliban, could move as rapidly as they did. The idea to tell the American people, well, maybe 60, 90 days, it'll take the Taliban to move in. Either we had the greatest intelligence failure since Pearl Harbor, or as you say, something wasn't right. Something was allowed to happen. I'm hoping to God that's not the case, but if it is, folks, wow. I mean, we've got a real problem on our hands. So now you got the Taliban. They came into Afghanistan in record speed. The Biden administration did everything backwards, You evacuate your civilians first, you close your embassy, and then your troops. Now, of course, Joe Biden decides, and some of the Democrat communists in his party decide, well, it all started with who? Of course, Donald Trump, with an agreement he negotiated with the Taliban. But what they're not telling you is that that agreement with the Taliban was based on conditions, not conditions we were to meet, conditions that the Taliban were to meet. And if the Taliban did not meet those conditions, U.S. troops are going nowhere. So now we have a situation, and John, here's something that to directly to your point, where the Taliban comes in, they take over the country in record speed. Now, what do, John? We left them an Air Force. They never had an Air Force, folks. They've got Black Hawk helicopters. They've got transport planes. They've got millions and millions and millions of rounds of ammunition and machine guns and armored personnel carriers. I mean, they've got a well-equipped army now. They've got an Air Force. So, John, to your point, it kind of sounds like Laura Logan may be onto something. And again, it's not confirmed, folks, and hopefully it'll be found out if there's any investigation. But I think, John, that evidence leads towards some credibility to what you just shared with us.
Well, Steve, it wasn't that they just left the military equipment. Another way to look at this is they just gave the Taliban $85 billion of military aid. Now, military people will tell you that all of that equipment was originally in the hands of the Afghan army, which they said they were hoping, or excuse me, let me rephrase. Biden said there was no way that he said directly that they would stand and fight. There's no ambiguity there. So, the military, our intelligence is the best in the world by far. We don't know ultimately what China's capabilities are, but you have to ask, if this was done on purpose, why? Who does this benefit? Well, it clearly benefits China, but there's also a geopolitical aspect of this, strategic, from a strategic point. Iran benefits tremendously from this action. And what do we know about the Biden administration? It's full of Suzanne Rice, okay, the former national security director for President Obama, who sent a plane full of cash to Iran. Billions of dollars were sent by plane at night, and they got caught doing it. So this greatly benefits Iran. In fact, we did Iran such a great favor strategically. We even armed the Taliban purposely, it looks like, or could be argued that we did that on purpose. So I'm deeply troubled by the trend of that we've seen since President Obama got into office back in 2008. It's a tragedy. There seems to be a bent in the Democratic Party to favor the mullahs in Iran and benefit our enemies every step of the way. And also, you bring up national security. While this is going on, okay, we still have the issue of the border, where essentially anyone who wants to come in is coming in. We have no way of tracking any of these people, and they're coming in. They're coming in not vaccinated, unmasked, and they're seeding them into the population. Now, the Supreme Court, as you know, just came out and said, "Wait a minute, time out. The Trump policy of waiting for asylum seekers remaining and waiting in Mexico has to be applied." But you and I both know the reality on the ground is the Biden administration is not going to listen to the Supreme Court.
Well, John, a couple of points. Now, what a lot of Americans don't know is that the Chinese Communist Party have their fingerprints all over this. Now, they've been dealing with the Taliban for many, many years with regard to investing in the infrastructure of Afghanistan vis-a-vis the Taliban. This has been going on for years. Now, the Chinese have also approached the Taliban to make some sort of a agreement with Pakistan regarding some investments in their infrastructure. Why Pakistan, folks? Why would the Chinese Communist Party want the Taliban to make friends with Pakistan? Why? The answer is India. We have India as the greatest ally and most powerful country in that area. So in order to disrupt the balance of power in that region, well, you're going to have a strong Pakistan and Taliban. And that means China becomes very strong. Now, listen to this one. As all this is going on, I'm talking about a domino effect. President Xi of China, a lot of you may not know this, he sent a message to the Taiwanese government and told them, take a look at your American allies. Take a look at what they're not doing. And when he said that to the Taiwanese government, Chinese fighter jets and bombers flew over Taiwanese territory. And now there happens to be a battle group, a Chinese Navy battle group in the area of Taiwan. So they're thinking, and they're thinking very closely as to what they might try to do. And I'm sure they're waiting until August 31st. And I'll tell you why that date in a moment. In the meantime, while all this is going on, Vladimir Putin is sitting around watching everybody. You can be sure, John, that Putin somewhere wants to get his hands involved, but he certainly doesn't want to see Chinese troops in Afghanistan. But if he makes a deal with China, maybe they're both going in. I don't know. It's a train wreck. So all this is going on. The whole geopolitical balance is now a complete mess, and it's going to be at our expense. Now, John, you said something about the border, right? You said something about terrorists possibly crossing the border. I agree. When I worked at the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force, one of the greatest concerns we had was Al-Qaeda terrorists crossing that border. But folks, listen to this. And this is really troubling. And I began to look into this after our esteemed governor here in New Jersey, Phil Murphy, who, by the way, is yet to condemn the Biden administration's tragedy and disaster in Afghanistan. I mean, I don't know how any American cannot condemn it, but it is what it is. So, John, not just the border, the people that are being loaded on the jets, being flown into the United States of America. I was on the air today all day, and I've been asked the question, well, Joe Biden is saying, well, they're going to be vetted, and they're going to be looked at, and they're going to look into their backgrounds. With what, folks? People are cramming. You saw the pictures. They're going to load them on those jets and they're going to wait. The only thing they'll inspect these people for is if they've got any weapons or bombs on them. Doesn't mean the bombs are not here. And if you think, and if anybody thinks, and if Joe Biden thinks when he's up, that they, meaning our enemies, haven't planned for something moving forward, you could be sure that if they hadn't planned for it in the past, they are planning for it now. John?
You know, I remember when Saddam invaded Iraq, and I remember seeing General Schwarzkopf for the first time on television. And at the time, it was an invasion. No one knew what to expect. No one really knew what was going to happen on that first day. But within literally a day, when Schwarzkopf came out to the press conference, and I remember this was at a time when CNN was just getting going, I remember thinking, wow, I feel good. This guy seems to know what's going on. He has his hands around the situation. He knows what needs to be done. He exuded confidence. I'm going to ask everyone out there, when you watched our Secretary of Defense and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs come out in their press conferences since last week, do they exude confidence? When you watch what they say and watch them answer questions, or even just look into their eyes, do you get the same sense of, wow, everything's going to be okay? I'm not worried about, these guys know what they're doing. I didn't get that feeling from them, Steve. In fact, I got the feeling they didn't want to even be on stage. And then you turn over and you look at the Pentagon spokesman. At one time, I'm sure he was a good commander. But to be saying some of the stuff that he is saying, you can clearly tell, A, he's not exuding any confidence, and B, he doesn't want to be there. And I don't even think he believes half the stuff he's saying.
Well, that's Kirby?
Kirby.
Yeah, all right. I know Kirby. I debated him on CNN and told him right out, John, that he sold his soul to the devil. I told him that. Good Navy admiral, good commander, but you know what? Politics, folks, politics stinks. Politics will turn a person inside out and upside down because they have this great desire for power, and I wonder over what. All right, so now I mentioned ISIS-K. A lot of people don't know what ISIS-K is. ISIS-K is a subgroup, a shoot-off of ISIS. And they're called ISIS-K because they've come from parts of Iran and Asia. And the K stands for Khorasan, all right? ISIS Khorasan. Now, here's the story with ISIS-K. ISIS-K is an enemy of the Taliban. So you might see some fighting going on within the next few days. When, I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when, because I really believe this is going to happen, when ISIS-K carries out the threats they made about 3 hours ago. Specific threats, folks, that they're going to launch multiple attacks on U.S. forces in the region. They're probably going to go after the airport, John. I hope it doesn't happen. Now, what's going to happen? The British Parliament today, apparently, John, I don't know if you heard about this, voted not to send their troops to assist U.S. forces as long as Joe Biden's in office. That was something that was reported in the British Parliament, which leads me to the question, another question I was asked all day about our NATO allies. Joe Biden gets up before us and the world and says, don't worry about it, folks. The NATO allies are on board. The G7 actors are on board. Everybody's just hunky dory, and we're just going to watch ourselves get out of there by August 31st. Now we find out that the British Parliament says, no, Joe, you're wrong. I understand the other NATO allies have had meetings, and they have concluded that the event of any hostile acts against them, that no longer can you depend on the United States of America. John, it was a short while ago where the Democrats, the socialists and communists, and the mainstream media were complaining that a guy named Donald Trump was breaking up NATO. On the contrary, he was uniting NATO, but making it clear to NATO that America came first. He put them all in line, and we had a strong NATO. Now, Joe Biden truly broke up NATO, and they're not going to commit their troops to any bloody war. John, I said for months, before you came on board, for months, and folks, you know I've said this, Joe Biden is going to lead us into a bloody war. We're within days of that war. I don't know how this can be turned around at this point, especially with ISIS being so brazen to threaten to launch attacks on us. We're going to be involved in a bloody war, in my view. And like I said, I hope it doesn't happen. John, you and I were around I don't want to turn on the news and see the body bags of U.S. troops at Dover Air Force Base. I don't want to see in the little right-hand corner of my TV the number of U.S. forces killed in action in Afghanistan. It's on Joe Biden, and I know there are Democrats and socialists and communists. I know you're tuning in. I know that there are people who are my friends who are Democrats tuning in. The blood is on your hands, friend or not. When young men and women in this country are going to fight in a war that was created by a corrupt politician who is a coward, then you are in the same league of that corrupt politician and coward. You elected this guy to office, and you know what's sad, John? Many of those people who elected this guy to office may see their sons and daughters go off into this battle. That is an absolute tragedy. We should never be there, but there may be a way out, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. John?
Well, if you're right, and this transpires, I'm concerned about the volunteer force military that we have. I mean, between the well-publicized woke agenda promoted by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, this wasn't coming from, a low-level colonel or a brigade commander. This came from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff about his woke agenda. And now you see we have a president that's willing to leave American citizens and maybe even some military personnel behind. Who's going to protect them? Okay. Would you encourage your son or daughter to be joining the military right now? And what happens? I mean, we saw the workforce right now. We have 10 million jobs out there that we can't fill. Supply chains being interrupted. Heck, I couldn't get my dog their favorite treats this week because they can't get enough people to work in the factory to make those treats. Okay, so if we can't get people to join the military because of what they're witnessing, where does that leave the rest of us? And so what's going on, Steve, in my opinion, was articulated by Laura Logan. I don't know why we're going down this path. That's what I don't understand. Why would we do that? Unless somebody made an assessment along the lines recently that they don't think we can defeat China. And maybe this is a soft turnover, entering soft despotism with the lockdowns and everything else that's going on. And maybe they just decided, someone made a calculation that we can't win. I don't know, but it's certainly disgusting. It's concerning. I have 2 kids. I don't even think they understand what's, in their early 20s. I couldn't understand in my early 20s what was going on, despite what was going on in front of me. So John, I'm very concerned.
Well, with regard to us defeating China or defeating any country, I'll tell you, I used to say, yeah, we can wipe them off the face of the earth. But at this point, I don't know for this reason. And John, you hit upon something that's going to hit close to home of everyone watching. If, in fact, we go to war, I don't believe there's enough troops to fight that war. You're going to see the reinstitution of the draft. It's going to come, folks. They have to draft your sons and your daughters and your grandchildren and my children and grandchildren. They got to do it to save this country in the event of a major, major conflict, because recruitments are down, the woke situation, the mandated vaccines are chasing everybody away from the military, including, by the way, the war we might have here on our own soil between the police and the criminals running the cities. So now we're seeing for the first time in history the collapse. I remember my wife talking to me about the collapse of the Soviet Union. We may be seeing right now, we may be on the edge of the collapse of this great experiment called America. Now, saying all that gloom and doom, there is, folks, a pathway to get out of this mess. And I'm going to ask you to listen to me very carefully. And look, please don't waste your time in putting things on my chat thing here, telling me that, we're not going to vote because there's election fraud. Well, we know that the Chinese were involved in hacking this or the Russians that. Most of what you are being fed is not true. Absolutely not true. I got to tell you, we just came back from Florida. We then made some speeches down there and had some meetings down there. I met with some real good people involved in a lot of the investigations regarding our election integrity, national security experts who have done this for years, a lifetime. They're behind the scenes. You'll never see them on the news. You'll never see them on TV. They're really serious people. You don't conduct an investigation, whether you're Mike Lindell or Rudy Giuliani or whatever, and go on television for the world to see. Because, folks, I'm telling you, better do some research, find out who's doing their research, and then formulate an opinion. I can tell you right now, most of what you see and I see on TV is inaccurate. It's not true. They're false narratives. And what boils my blood, John, is that it is distracting us from doing what we must do. And that is, number one, focus very clearly on what's happening with regard to the terrorists in Afghanistan. Number two, get to the polls and vote. I don't want to hear, oh, they're going to fix the election. That's falling right into the arms of the Chinese Communist Party. You get to the polls and vote. You support people who are of like mind, America first, conservative values. Get involved, folks. When we were in Florida, Texas, we're all over the country. We see people getting involved. People complain about, oh, my kid's education is so upset. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? The people, John, that tell us, oh, what are you guys going to do? Well, I tell people, look in the mirror. What are you going to do? So you get together, you go to your school board meetings, and you start throwing the people the heck out of office, school board, city council, on and on and on and on. And we've offered this. We at Campaign for America, all over the country, and we're getting a good response. We said to you, you want a plan? Email us. Email us, folks. We're going to send you the plan. We're going to send you a plan how to get started right in your neighborhood to become an effective advocate of the America First agenda. You don't have to do what we're doing. You don't have to leave your house, but you can become very, very effective. So I'm going to put our email up in a minute. Email us. Even while you're watching, email us. And so here's what we got to do. John, I'm going to pass it off to you because you've been intimately involved in running for office, and you know the importance as the president of a New Jersey GOP group of people getting involved. We have, folks, now hear me clearly, we have in 2021, just a few months away, here in New Jersey and around the country, gubernatorial races and state legislature races. The entire country's watching this, because if we are able to remove every Democrat from office, every governor, flip it from blue to red, every state legislature, blue to red, school board, city councils, just wipe out overnight the entire Democrat Party on a state level. Watch what happens in the congressional races. John?
The way to get back our country is for the citizens who complain and agree with us is to run for office. And there's no office too small or no office too large that needs to be engaged. The school boards are probably vital to the future of our country. And if I would beg everyone to consider figuring out how to get together in their communities, see what meetings, small meetings, you don't have to have 50 people there. Start off like what we did. You can start off with 3. 3 turns into 5. 5 turns into 15, etc. It's really that simple. What did Ben Franklin say? We get the government we deserve. So typing things into Facebook or typing things online may feel personally cathartic, but it's not action. This is an action. This is discussion to motivate people. But the action,
John,
the action and the effort has to come from the great citizens of this country.
Now, to John's point, we had about 20 people on a Zoom meeting with us a couple weeks ago from Mercer County, New Jersey. One citizen. By the way, that citizen was an immigrant from the former Soviet Union. That woman got up and she gathered a bunch of people together in her area and said, let's meet. Let's do something. Let's fight this fight. She's been fighting a long time. And we sent them the plans to start. And to John's point, run for office. You don't think you can get elected? Yeah, you can get elected. You just got to know how to do it. We'll help guide you. We'll use the technology we have here to come into your home via Zoom or even come to your house and work with you. Because if we don't come together to do what's right for our communities, then we're not doing what's right for America. So folks, it's time to get involved. PTA groups, PTO groups, set up meetings with them. You know, we'll come, ask them to invite us as guest speakers, or we'll send somebody. All right. People are hungry. John, what I found out when we were in Florida, people were hungry for the truth. They're just tired. Like my wife says, every time you turn the TV on, same old characters, same old story. Who's investigating this? Who found out that the election was corrupted by A, B, and C? Who has evidence? Who doesn't have evidence? The same old story. And I'm getting disturbed because it's diverting us, all of our energies, from being where it should be. John, you and I know we can't do nothing about election fraud. We can't personally, but there are experts out there. There are people who have a dedicated and committed interest in investigating that and solving that problem. In the 38 years I've been involved in law enforcement, every investigation I supervised, never was any of it released to the public until we had enough evidence to indict and send people to jail. You're a lawyer, John. Am I right or wrong?
That's the only way to do it. I never understood what some of the people on our side were doing. You mentioned Mr. Lindell. You know, seemed to be a sincere guy. Phenomenal American success story, literally from the back alleys of bad neighborhoods, you know, to a multi-millionaire and pro America First agenda. But you're right. You got to be, listen, I don't trust people that don't tell us what's really going on in a time of an emergency. Okay. I mean, let's take the masks mandate for a second. And the Surgeon General at the time, Trump's Surgeon General, and Fauci. Oh, no, we're not going to be wearing masks. Masks don't stop anything. The Surgeon General actually texted out, tweeted out, seriously, people, stop buying masks. They're not going to help you. And then they say later, we already said that so that you people wouldn't buy the masks because we were trying to save the PPE for the hospitals. Well, right then and there from the get-go, the public, those officials lost my respect and they lost our trust, not just mine, the rest of the American people. So there's no need to lie to the American people. Okay, there's no need, and that's what's frustrating us. We're not getting the truth. You know it. When the president of the United States, in the biggest foreign affairs crisis in the last 75 years, walks off the stage without taking a question, what more do you need to know?
Very good, John. Thanks so much. All right, folks, on to another topic that directly affects us. And I know, John, this certainly affects you. And I know you have a story behind this, but Phil Murphy here in New Jersey, you know, the buck stops at the governor's office. Former Governor Cuomo of New York and some other governors decided that, well, you know, with the pandemic on, we have to release prisoners. Well, folks, they just didn't release low-level prisoners, you know, shoplifters and what have you. They released convicted killers. And in New York, there was a convicted killer. His sentence was commuted. And in New Jersey, apparently one or two characters, they were released. And shortly after, got a machete and chopped up a few people in New Hampshire. So, John, also I read today, and I thought of you right away, that there is an individual who was released after committing a bank robbery where officers were killed, I believe in New York. And where's that guy going? Back out on the streets. And I thought of you because I know your father was involved in a tragic situation similar to that. John?
Yeah. So I believe this, you're referring to the Nyack, New York Weather Underground bank robbery, where I believe 2 police officers and two Brinks guards were all shot. Three died. 1 survived. Yeah, my story and my family story is particularly poignant. My father passed away a week ago, a couple of days ago, and you know, my father's legacy and influence on me is I just can't express it. But in 1981, within 10 days of that Nyack shooting, my dad was a Brinks, one of his part-time jobs at the time was a Brinks guard in Boston, Massachusetts, and was shot in a bank robbery by a group that was affiliated with the Weather Underground. In fact, our family was told he was a member of the Weather Underground. In fact, the suspect's name at the time was, I don't know if he's still alive, his name was John McGrath, and he was caught at the scene. And in fact, there's a famous photo of my father on the front page of November 17, 1981's Boston Globe. Unfortunately for my dad and for our family, 2 days before the trial, my father's car was firebombed and exploded. But this gentleman, Mr. McGrath, was acquitted of all the charges. He was represented, Steve, by two lawyers, and I'll never forget their names. One was a woman named Nancy Gertner. She was the lead counsel. Miss Gertner went on to be a Harvard law professor, left-wing author, and celebrated left-wing author, and federal court judge. The junior counsel, Judith H. Misner, went on to represent one of the Tsarnaev brothers in the Boston marathon bombing, the surviving marathon. So, unfortunately for my father, this gentleman was acquitted, and we never got the justice we believed we were entitled to. But I can tell you that group, the Weather Underground, people associated with them. This guy McGrath was reported that he was the founder of the National Prisoners' Rights Association. In fact, in the Harvard Gazette 8 years earlier, he threatened to burn some students in Harvard Square to get the quote unquote the man's attention. These are bad people, and my father, as you know, survived obviously, and he just passed last week. But when you've been a victim of something like that, Stephen, I know you've spoken in your career, many people like myself and family members. It changes you. It's a paradigm change. It changes your outlook. It changes your belief system. It challenges you in many different ways. I still went on to become a lawyer and become a participant in our society, but I am very and always will be someone who questions authority and power. That trial that I witnessed, I didn't think it was a fair trial, as evident by some of the other things that came out during it. And unfortunately, our governors exercise this power. And I have a question, Steve. Why is it that the Democrats seem to always be on the side of terrorists? Why is it that they always seem to be? I mean, this seems to be a direct affiliation, a party affiliation. I don't understand their attraction to the people that commit violent acts. These are not oppressed people. The people that he released were not minorities. These were people that were white. Okay, these were just bad people. So this one has nothing to do with systemic racism. This is just an affinity and a love. I don't know where the money comes from, or standing up for these bad people is repulsive.
John, to answer the question, I believe that we are seeing what Ronald Reagan saw in his time, and I mentioned that a lot. But it seems as if the Communist Party, in this case, the Chinese Communist Party, has been very, very active in America. These Democrats, they're so blind, I mean, just so blind to what has happened, and years of indoctrination, even our military, our college campuses, years and years and years of people being indoctrinated with the ideology of Stalin, Marx, and Lenin has caught up to us. In addition to that, a lot of hate in the heart. I also believe there's a spiritual element to this. There's no doubt in my mind that spiritually speaking, I read the Bible. I see some prophecies in the Bible beginning to unfold. I'm not going to get into that, but that's why I tell people research. Folks, I'm not kidding. Research. Find out who's saying what and where they're coming from. But saying that, John, I just got to, John, do you see the feed here that I have with the comments?
I see it. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna share something with you. Now, here's somebody from Wisconsin. I know you're still listening. Name's Crystal. Okay? Now, Crystal just said to me, and folks, this is what makes this worth it, what we're doing on the air, and how encouraging you can be to this process. Crystal basically says to me, look, if you guys are serious of doing things and helping us, she wants us to guide her through the process. She says, I'm putting things together, and not sure how to move forward in a way that will affect change, please reach out to me. You see, this is the kind of stuff that we need. A person stepping up and saying, I've had it, I'm going to get involved. Now, Crystal, I know you can hear me. Let's see. You see that where it says visit campaignforamerica.com? That's our website. Go to it. There's a contact page, and we send you there because it helps keep everything organized. Just put your name and your email. Need nothing else. And then we'll get information to you. We'll get it out within the next couple of days. And that's for anybody. You know, just look over what we're sending you. We don't charge folks. Unlike a lot of organizations, we don't charge a fee for anything we do. Now, we're going to be traveling around the country very soon. Now, here's something, John, that'll interest you, all right? We're going to be traveling around the country, my wife and I and some team members, and we're going to be delivering to the American people in a whole lot of different locations our America First agenda, and we're going to be encouraging and inspiring people and remind them that we are the shining city upon a hill, and no one is going to take that from us. The message we're giving to the American people is going to be positive, inspiring, and truthful. There'll be no dark winters coming from us. There's going to be a lot of sunshine because there's still a lot of sunshine. All right, John, here it is. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. Can I put you on the spot, John?
Of course.
Of course. Okay. So knowing that we are already getting requests to travel all over the place and to deliver that message to GOP organizations and to candidates, and with candidates running around the country, I sent out an email today only to the 21 New Jersey GOP county chairs, okay? And I know them, you know them, they're fine people. They really work hard. They're not really given the thanks they should get, believe me, over the work they do with the little help and tools they get. But here's what I did, folks. I offered them this. I said to them, we will commit our resources here at Campaign for America and the time and effort to help them get every single Republican running for office in New Jersey elected. We will travel to their events, to their fundraisers, we'll make speeches, we'll do whatever it takes to increase the memberships in their organizations and bring strength. Well, my question to you is this, John. Do you think I'll get any responses? No. There you go. Well, you're truthful. No. Which leads me to this. Folks, I have heard from people here in New Jersey only. I haven't heard from the people I talked to in Dallas and especially in Florida and some other locations, that they have reached out to Republican Party organizations, okay, in particular our state organization, whether it be emails or phone calls. No responses. No responses. Now, some of them have told me they've reached out to some chairmen and chairwomen, they got responses. But John, when you are a chairperson of a party, you need to go out and inspire leadership, inspire and encourage people. And I think one of the best things to do is that when they make a phone call, for goodness sakes, or send an email, you respond. We do that here at Campaign for America. We respond to everyone. They take a little time at times because we're overwhelmed. Like I said, nobody gets paid here. We're all volunteers, but we do this because we love our country. So folks, I get it. John gets it. Now, I'll report back to you next Wednesday. I hope I'm wrong. I hope a few of these chair people call. I hope some of these candidates call. So the next on-the-spot question is, John, why not?
Well, I think we've covered this before. I think in particularly New Jersey are states where you have one-party rule. And I think that would apply to both political parties, what I'm about to say. The minority party just looks for the scraps. And the political leadership that comes out of the minority party in a one-sided state like New Jersey, that a lot of these people have their own agendas of why why they step into the leadership role. Well, I'm not saying that applies to every single person, obviously, but I would say this, that if you're in the minority party in New Jersey and you're the chairman of that party, why wouldn't you accept the help to get the vote out, or the GOT, what's known as in the political circles, a GOTV effort, get out the vote effort. I mean, I guess they've got it all figured out and they know how to do it on their own and they don't need anyone's help. I don't think that's the case. As I said before, the Republican Party in New Jersey has done a remarkable job, some of the leadership, of monetizing their positions. And I believe that to be true. I've seen it in action. And when you do that, you're essentially running for office or for all the wrong reasons, and it's not for patriotism. But as you point out, it's a thankless job. Some of them are overwhelmed. But I am a president. If I have an organizational group come to me and say, listen, we want to help you get out the vote, I will absolutely take that help, provided that we know who they are. They're not criminals. They're not here to sabotage the campaign. You vet them out. But you take the help and you build the tent and you build it wide out, just like Trump did right after the primary. We had to reach out to the supporters of all those other candidates and win them over.
John, here's a problem I see, and I'm sure it's not just here in Jersey, but it's around the country. Every day we get mail and we get emails and so-and-so candidates having a fundraiser. Instead of making the fundraiser affordable to the people most affected, they make the fundraiser affordable only to people with a lot of money. $500 a plate, John, $1,000, $2,500 for platinum, $3,000, $6,000 for this. I frankly can't afford that. And I know that most of us cannot. And it's always the little guy. You know, we identify the little guy, all right? The little guy's the hardworking guy and gal that are out there paying their taxes, want to get involved, want to know what's going on. But no, they are not being embraced. And John, this is really interesting. People have told me that they feel disenfranchised and that in New Jersey, all right, the Republican Party is not embracing the masses of the people. In the middle class and the poor, and I'm even hearing this from some people in the upper income level. It seems like we're back to that same old crowd with the same old story. Now we come along, folks. I want you to think about this. We come along, Campaign for America comes along. There's a very strong group like us called Jexit in Florida, and we're going to have one of the leaders of that group on soon. And there are in Florida and in Texas, all right, particularly in Florida. We spent a lot of time down there, folks. I must have been to 2-3 dozen grassroots organizations, not where there are 12 people meeting. There are 200 people. They have literally taken over the Republican Party by de facto. But saying that, the Republican Party, the chairman down there and others are now working together, okay? They're working together for the common good. Which leads me to another Reaganite thing. We have conservatives, John, that it's either their way or the highway, all or nothing. Well, I'd rather do what Reagan said. Get 50%, 60%, get something, get a piece of the pie, get your seat at the table, and then take it from there. Another problem with our organization here in New Jersey, and I suppose some around the country.
Steve, democracy is messy. It's no fun to watch sausage be made, but at the end of the day, we have a democratic process, and if we're not careful and we don't participate and we don't organize and run for school boards and run for local council, and don't be ignored by the political leaders of whatever party, GOP, Democrats, whatever. You have a right to insist to participate in this country. For crying out loud, if I can run for a federal office like Congress, coming from, my background, anyone can. This is something that in America, anyone can do it. But we are very close and dangerously close to losing that ability. We see what the tech giants are doing. They're censoring opinions. What do you think comes next? I mean, do you think they're going to stop there? They're going to start censoring candidates. They may even censor a whole political party. What does Biden do? Okay, right now, if you are someone who what they label as anti-vax, which is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life, okay, or anti-masks, you are considered a potential terrorist group. And what does that do by being on that list? It allows the NSA, it allows the federal government to go into the FISA court and say, look, this group has been identified as a potential terrorist problem. We need FISA warrants. And that's what that allows to do. I mean, a lot of people, it's nuanced and people don't understand that, but trust me, that's what that's about. Okay. It's not about anything else. We're about to lose all that. So just typing into a phone, typing into a computer is wonderful. Get it off your chest, but you have to take action, run for office.
And we have to, folks, start taking control of the conversation. Who are we? We the people. I'll give you an example. All the conspiracy theorists, and I've met some of them personally, they're out of their minds. Absolutely out of their minds. And when I say that, some of the Republicans I know get upset. Well, no, this person knows this and this person knows that. This person prayed and God, John, I've heard from people here in my day and age. It seems like they've heard from God more than Moses heard from God when he was in Israel in the Old Testament days. I don't like it, folks. When people take religion, they take scriptures, they use all that, and then they say, well, God led me here and God led me there. He does. He leads us. He guides us. But you don't. And this is where some people objected to what I said a few weeks ago. This is where when pastors, church leaders, and others get entangled, when they use the Bible, they get entangled in politics. It's okay. Get involved. In fact, the scriptures say, get involved, and base your principles, as I've done and John have done, on those biblical principles. But when you get entangled with politicians and politics, you're getting entangled with corruption. Dirty water doesn't make clean water clean. Remember that, folks. Politics is dirty. And you got to be able to go through it like John and I did and others of like mind without getting dirty, without being corrupt. Coming out, whether you win, lose, or draw, with your character and with the principles that you believe in. So, again, we have to take over the conversation from what I call the, let me be kind, from those who do not know better, okay? We need to take over the conversation, and we are. Campaign for America, groups like us, we're going to begin this fall to start running around the country. I'm going to stick in New Jersey a little while. I want to see if I get any responses. And if I do, then we're going to stay in New Jersey and help the candidates here. If not, we're going to go where we're wanted. And it's not only me, believe me. There are dozens of people like John, like me, who have the tools and the equipment we need to go out and help candidates. So we take over the conversation, try to divorce yourself from all of the garbage. How do you know it's garbage? Do some research, check it out, and you'll get the point. And then you move forward. So we will send you, like Crystal asked for from, I believe it was Wisconsin, we'll send you a PDF document within the next 2 days, probably tomorrow, that'll help you get started. A little guide, it's a summary, it's a guide to help you get started. I'm sure you're gonna call us back, you get in touch with us and say, look, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And we will. And guess what, John, you know what I love about us? I can say that, right? I love about us,
Sure.
America. You're not going to get a solicitation for any money. All right, folks? Believe me, you're not. We're not going to do that. Maybe down the road, if we're doing a special project, that's another thing. But so far, we haven't had to raise funds. And I'll just leave it at that. God's been good to us. And he's been good to us because there are prayer cells out there where you've been praying for us. And God provides our needs. Okay, so let's leave it at that. So, John, any last words before we leave until next Wednesday?
My father passed away on the 16th, which was Monday, which was when the news broke with regard to Afghanistan and what President Biden was doing. And and there is a blessing. My father died peacefully, died in his sleep. One of my sisters was attending to him. He wasn't alone. But I can tell you this, if he had witnessed that Monday, what we all witnessed in this country, we would be having to buy my father a new television.
Yeah, well, I did, John, give him a shout out last broadcast when you were away. And I did get so many nice, I told him about the story in the Army. And your dad was like my dad. Those guys were liars. That's right. Our fathers were liars, right, John? You know,
he got kicked out of the Army for lying about his age, Steve. It's like
our parents back in those days, his father lied about his age to get in the Army, as my father did. He got kicked out, 16 years old, right? 16, 17 years old.
Right.
You know what they did? My father went down and lied again. He joined the Navy and they took him.
Yep, my dad went to the Coast Guard.
Yeah, and they fought in World War II, folks. That's the greatest generation. There's hope for America because there are still people like that are walking around and all they're looking for is leadership. So we're going to provide the leadership. And by the way, this and this. You ready? Jackie from Italy. You see, John, Jackie from Italy is tuning in. We've got a lot of people from around the world tuning in. Italy, Lithuania. We did have someone from Germany. So spread the word, folks. Share these broadcasts. And we want to thank you so much for joining us until next Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please go to our website. It's right there. I got to make that bigger, John. I got to lean over to watch it. I don't know how you guys do it. Campaign 4America.com. Campaign 4America.com.
Thank you all.
Yep. There we go. So, folks, I know we gave you lots to swallow. A lot of people say, oh, my God, all this bad news.
Oh, poor Melbourne. Melbourne there, Steve, from Australia. What they're going
Oh, Australia. There we go. Melbourne. I was there. Look at that. Well, welcome. Well, this is great. John, we kind of put the word out today in several social media platforms. So apparently it worked. Thank you, Australia. And thank you for your alliance during all the years that we were together fighting World War II and further. See, these are freedom-loving people tuning in.
Unless you sneezed on an elevator.
Yep. Pardon me?
Unless you're in Australia and you sneezed on an elevator.
Yeah.
You're alone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But I've got to tell you, folks, this is what we're doing. We're getting that type of outreach. So share these broadcasts. We're going to be back next week. Now, as I was saying, all the stuff we shared with you, remember, there's a God above. We were here before, folks. America was here before. And each and every before we came out of it and we won. We win, they lose. We just got to get it together and then we move forward, because truly the one guide, the one person, the one individual they'll never be able to take from America is God Almighty, is Jesus Christ. Never. He's put his shadow of his wings has been over our country since we were born, and it ain't going nowhere as long as we pray. Worship him and glorify him. Put him first, and he'll put America first. Thank you so much for joining us. John, thanks a lot. We'll see you next Wednesday. God bless you. Remember, the chief end of man is to love and glorify God forever. There's our website. Please be in touch. Have a great week.
Good night.